28th.
I forgot to hit
Start over
record.
again, don't I?
Sorry. I thought.
Thank you. Thank you. Never fails. My woman always does that. Anyway, the select board of Wilmington, Vermont will hold a public hearing pursuant to 20 BSA and 3546 on Friday, March 28th, 2025 at 8 a.m. at Town Hall, 2 East Main Street, second floor meeting room. We heard evidence and testimony on a complaint of a vicious dog named Bob, owned, kept by Henry and Linda Darlington, presently residing at 82 Mullen Way. The hearing will be open to the public, however, the public will not, we will not accept it from the public, only those offering evidence that the votes matter will be allowed to participate. Right? Say that so we don't have anything from the crowd. All right, so I've read the complaint, go ahead, I'm sorry, it did not even.
Here.
Complaint filed by the Tangs family. Good morning, I'm writing to you to request a hearing for a dog bite incident involving my 9-year-old daughter that occurred on Tuesday, March 18th at approximately 6:30 p.m. on Mullen Way. Walking with my daughter, we encountered an unleashed dog several yards ahead of its owner. Without provocation, the dog attacked my daughter, biting her on the left leg near the knee. My daughter immediately began screaming, and after the dog bit her, the dog then started barking aggressively and growling at us. The owner tried to subdue his dog and eventually gained control of the animal. After the owner gained control of the dog, I quickly assessed my daughter, noted that her leg was dead. I obtained the owner's contact information and verbal verification that the dog was vaccinated and its records were current. I brought my daughter back to where we were staying and did a more thorough evaluation of the room. And once I ensured she was safe and stable, my husband and I met with the owner to secure the dog's vaccination records and exchange of contact information. The next day, I attempted to verify these records with a listed veterinarian, but was unsuccessful. The veterinarian directed me to report it to animal control. Further inquiries to the local authority revealed that Wilmington does not have a dedicated animal control department, leading us to report the incident to the Wilmington Police Department. Due to the worsening condition of my daughter's wound, we sought medical attention at the urgent care facility on Wednesday, March 19th, where Vermont Department of Health animal bite report was completed. Given this unprovoked attack, I respectfully request a select board hearing to discuss this matter. My goal is to ensure appropriate safeguards are implemented to prevent similar incidents from occurring. As I reside in Pennsylvania, I am happy to participate in the hearing remotely if necessary. Thank you for your time and consideration. Bevan Pence. All right, everybody understand that? Okay. Before we start any testimony, anyone that's going to give any testimony today has to swear. Okay. Directions. Okay, is it working at all now or no?
Can you hear?
Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear them speaking?
Yes, I can hear him
Yes.
speaking.
All right.
So the next item is to swear everybody in. So everyone who is giving testimony would have to raise their right hand. That will include the chief, police, zoning, or health officer.
Anyone that's going to offer any kind of testimony here today, please raise your right hand. All right. All right. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
No. I think you're. Now, on both ends here, both the complainant and victim have received copies of the rules of procedure. Have you received copies of all of this? All right, are there any questions on it?
No, procedures, no.
All right, are there any? Okay, I'm going to ask you, board, are there any disclosure, I'm not a disclosure of any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications you may have had anything that? No, don't. Right. Okay. All right, we will now accept any written information. All right, from the complaining victim and present it to the board. Do you have something written that you want to submit to us? Or is it something you want to
Complainant,
present to us?
Done the complaint. So you have in front of you, or does he have all the photos? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so you've been presented with exhibits, and that was the complaint and the photos. And I believe, in addition to that, you have,
The police report.
police
health officer
report.
report.
the health officer report and the rabies vaccinations. Those are entered into as evidence. And in terms of the pennings, is there any other evidence you would like to offer physically?
All right.
And they're trying to talk.
Sorry.
So there's no written information.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry. Computer glitched a little bit.
So the question is, did you hear us in terms of what has been entered in as evidence that you've provided already? Did you hear that?
Yes, the complaint that I had, the police office report, the health office report, and the photos,
And the
and then the
rabies,
vaccination.
rabies
Yeah.
vaccination photos. Do you have anything else to offer in terms of physical evidence?
I could submit my daughter's urgent care visit. That just notates that she was seen for the bite.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
It's a juvenile medical.
right. If you
Yeah.
send that to us, just redact. You can send that in an email, but redact all the information. We're using initials EP.
EP.
And any specific, dates of birth or social security or anything like that. Just redact that and you can send that to us and we'll make sure it gets to the.
Okay.
The
Will
chair.
do. Thank
Yes, at this point here, you're gonna reply to the complaint. To defend any oral testimony. Or when you do that, do you have written information?
Right, that's what I wanted to ask, if this was our opportunity. We don't have additional written information, but we have just for the
Okay,
first
so,
time.
we're gonna do that on the oral side.
Right.
All right,
I do have an additional photo
okay,
that I'd like to submit. Do you want me to do that now?
I would submit it now, yes.
Okay. It's finished. She, because her. I have several copies.
All we need is one copy, we can share it up here with the board, we can make copies if need be. Okay.
So. Nothing is that, things I'm sure how to, okay, but what I have. Is I have photos that were shared with us the day after, no, the same day. Same day as the incident, so there were 3 photos, that the parents shared with us. And then I also have a photo of my dog's paw. Obviously can't bring a dog, but we did bring this paw.
This one we have, I'm just gonna set these to the side in case they need them again.
You could, but there's actually a reason they're together.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm gonna look now to. To the blankets. And ask you. If everything that you have in your possession has been submitted here for this hearing so far. You don't have the additional written information or whatever that needs to be submitted to this board?
Is that to us?
Is that to us? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Do you have any additional information to send us? To send to the board,
Written information.
written information?
No.
No.
So what we're gonna do is, I would like somebody to give me your take on this matter, basically exactly how you saw this occur. All right, could you start doing that, please?
And state your names also when you speak, just so I make sure I have everything right on record.
Would you like us to go first? Yeah. So good morning. My name is Bevan Pennings. I'm going to kind of relay what the event occurred on March 18th at approximately 6:30 p.m. So as stated in my complaint, we were walking. My daughter and I went for a walk. We were staying on vacation on Mowing Way. And we walked kind of down the road around Mowing Way, and there's sort of a bend in around the road. We went up, and then we were walking back towards where we were staying. As we sort of came around that bend in the road, we had good visibility of kind of the up the road from us. My daughter and I encountered a dog, and what happened is I recognized the breed, and so I asked. There were several yards in front of myself, from myself and my daughter to the dog, and then several yards from that dog to that owner. What happened is that as we approached, I said, "Is that a Weimaraner?" And the man replied, "Indeed it is." And then my next question was, "Is your dog friendly?" And he said, "Yes." But as soon as before he could even put the S on yes, the dog had darted behind me. My daughter was pretty much, if we were walking, she was about right on my right side. And the dog darted behind me and bit her. I didn't know the extent of her injuries. So I rolled around because now the dog's behind us. I rolled around, put my hand in front of her, sort of like blocking. And I just watched the dog. My daughter was screaming at this point in time, but the dog was growling and barking aggressively. I know the man was saying something to the dog. Quite frankly, I'm unclear what he said. My focus was really on that dog because it was acting very aggressively all of a sudden. And he was trying to control the dog. Eventually, he was able to subdue his dog by grabbing its collar. I never saw a leash be taken out at any time. Immediately, once he had the dog secured, I looked at my daughter because, again, she's still screaming and crying. And I quickly assessed her, as noted in my complaint, and noted that she did have a wound on her leg. And I looked at him and I said, is your dog, I don't recall the exact time of the sequence of events, but I said, is your dog vaccinated? He said yes. And I said, does it have its records? And he said yes. And I asked him if he lived locally, and he gave me his address. So I got his address. Again, I looked back to my daughter. I asked her if she was able to walk back to the place that we were staying, and we walked back. Upon arriving at the place that we were staying at, it was about 2 houses away, roughly, from where the incident occurred. So it wasn't that far. I called for my husband and our friends that we're staying with as well, and said that I needed help, that our daughter just got bit by a dog. So they came about and helped me sort of really take a closer look at her wound and assess it. And we immediately applied ice, as well as we treated it, made sure it was cleaned out really well. Once we knew that she was safe, secure, and stable, and we didn't have to take any immediate further action, we went to go and locate the records and the gentleman. So my husband and I left. We left my daughter with our friends, and we walked around to the bend. Then it was, again, we found out it was Mr. Darlington was the man who was with the dog earlier, the Weimaraner, and he did provide us with records as well. We had a brief conversation where we exchanged information and cell phone information as well as his address. And he did, like I said, provide those records. He said, again, he was sorry for what had happened and what had happened to my daughter. And we stated that we hoped that she felt good because she wanted to be a vet, and that this didn't ever traumatize her from being around animals. And then we went our separate ways. Later that evening, again, when we got back, we did send, after we had that contact information, some photos to the Darlingtons of what it looked like immediately thereafter. So I believe we sent 3 pictures. And then we just got a reply. Thanks for the photos. Hope she feels better soon. So that was the extent of our communication. The next day, we woke up. I tried to interact with the vet. I don't know the Darlingtons, but I wanted to confirm that the records, there wasn't another dog, that the records were true. So I reached out to the animal record and the vet that I had on file, and the records that were provided to me, and the vet flat out refused to give me any information. So that triggered me because I just wanted confirmation, because my daughter's wound did look worse the next day. Again, the bruising really became apparent. There was more marks apparent. And I wanted just confirmation that, one, this is the right dog, and one, this dog's records is absolutely up to date. So they reached out. They told me that I needed to contact animal control. Again, I'm not local to the area. So they gave me a number. And again, it was then through many inquiries and several phone calls that I wound up eventually getting to the police department, because there is no animal control, as I was told, in the town of Wilmington. Then I did interact with the police department there to relay the events that happened. And they took it from there. And then later that day, we did go to urgent care just to get her assessed and make sure that no further treatment was recommended at this time for her. And that is pretty much the statement of events that happened and thereafter.
Breakfast and board, any questions you'd like to add? I'd like to ask.
Did urgent care provide any feedback on regarding the bite? Did they have to do any emergency services on it? I guess. Okay.
They did. They cleansed it with, I'm probably gonna misstate the name of it. It's a high bite cleanse antibiotic ointment was applied to her wound in the site so that there was no infection. And they also, which we did as well, they wanted to make sure that our daughter's vaccinations were up to date as well, because that was another point that, again, it just, outside of rabies, there could be contamination to that wound site and could lead to infection of other sorts.
And did they notify you of any actual teeth piercings or claw skin breakage?
No, but they clearly stated it was a wound bite, because you can see the indentations on both top and bottom of the leg. It's not a scratch.
You see the teeth.
So
It didn't puncture all the way through the layers of skin.
so you're saying it was punctured, correct?
It was not punctured all the way through the multi-layers of skin. No. And again, she was wearing clothes as well. And she had like, they're like I would call them like mucklucks, like they're like bogs, you like bigger boots that go up to like almost your calf area.
And the redacted report that you're gonna share, does that indicate that it was, the doctor confirmed it was a bite mark?
Yeah, so I can read it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, as long as you redact the name.
Yes. So it says medical decision-making notes, right? DDX, animal bite, envenomation, cellulitis, abscess formation, sepsis. Anyway, so I'll go to the MDM, medical decision-making notes. This is a 9-year-old patient who presents to the clinic following a dog bite to the patient's left lower extremity that happened at approximately 1 day prior to their arrival. Patient's mother stated that the animal bite bit her daughter's left leg after walking up a street the other day. It is a domesticated dog that belongs to another owner with vaccination records and up-to-date rabies vaccination. Patient is also up to date on vaccinations, including tetanus. She prevents for evaluation and ensures that there's nothing further that needs to happen. Animal control has been notified along with police. On examination, well-appearing young female, no acute distress, vital signs stable. Temperature afebrile. After a thorough history and physical examination, the wound was assessed for severity, location, and potential surrounding arrhythmia, redness to suggest cellulitis. I think these injuries are superficial in nature, or an oral antibiotic treatment I do not believe is necessary at this time. The type of animal involved was considered in determining the risk of infection and the need for rabies prophylaxis. Tetanus status was reviewed and updated as necessary. The wound was cleansed using Hybiclens antibiotic ointment applied. Patient education was provided on wound care, signs of infections, and when to seek further medical attention. A follow-up plan was established, and the patient was advised on steps to prevent future animal bites.
Go back. The diagnosis is bitten by dog.
Yeah, bitten by dog initial encounter.
Yep.
That's one of the diagnoses recorded. And there's a plan in there too. Return to the clinic or ER for any worsening symptoms such as redness, swelling, pain, red streaking, significant distress, high fevers, dizziness, passing out, chest pain, difficulty breathing, or any other concerning symptoms. If there's any redness, streaking, swelling, fevers, please present back for evaluation. Please keep the area clean and dry. Place bacitracin ointment over the affected area until the abrasions have fully healed. Please return to the clinic if 3 days, if not better. Call or return to the clinic sooner if your condition worsens or if you have any concerns.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let me ask you a very quick question. So even when the dog had gone around behind you, there was no leash involved. It wasn't one of those spring-loaded leashes.
No.
That's a great deal of leeway. No. No. Okay. So, but the other matter is the reason for the complaint to the select board is that there was no animal control person available to handle this matter. Is that what it was?
I was told, but I was directed by the veterinarian clinic to report it because all I was seeking was, again, to validate records. And the veterinarian clinic of record, of the records that I had received, refused to release any information to me because I was not the owner of the animal. Even when I explained that my daughter had been bitten by this animal. So as a result, they're the ones that directed me to animal control. And then I reached out and I was told that there was no animal control. And then therefore I had to go to the police department to make a report so that they could validate the records of the vaccination records.
Okay.
The police department handles all animal control issues.
All right. I just had it. And what veterinarian was it? You remember? Do you recall?
West Animal Hospital, I believe. WAH. I have it.
Westmount Animal Hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, that's what happened.
How's your daughter feeling?
She's good. She's well. Thank you for asking.
So I have to ask you this question though too.
Mhm.
What do you hope to get out of this hearing?
I think it was an awful, horrific event, and it was very scary for both myself and for my daughter. My goal is just to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And the best way that I feel like I can safeguard against that happening again is one, to report the unprovoked nature of this, and two, just to make sure that that dog is leashed at a minimum. Like, I just want the dog to be leashed. When it's out and about and in the community, it should absolutely be leashed so that it can be controlled and within the owner control at all time. I don't wish the dog ill will. I'm sure maybe the dog in very different situations is a very pleasant dog, but our encounter with that animal was not pleasant. It was aggressive and it was vicious. Our daughter, and you'll see this in the medical records, is only all of like 60 something pounds. That dog, per the animal records that we received, is 81 pounds. It is not a small animal, and it attacked my daughter. My goal again is just to safeguard and prevent this from happening again. And I think the best way to do that is to make sure that the leashing has to be in place at all times, especially if it's out in the community. That's my ask.
Anything else that, maybe, I don't know, want to ask you more questions? All right, we thank you very much.
Thanks.
Folks, you're on the public here. So sit at this table so we do have access to the microphone. That one didn't work? Was
Well,
that-
No, the whole system isn't working. We're running off my computer right now.
so, yeah, so basically to speak up so we
Yeah.
collect it and the pennies can hear you.
Just roll your paper up and use the microphone as a chair. Okay?
Like I said, I think we have all of the written information we needed, as well as the photos. All right, now we want your side of the story, okay?
Of
So just introduce yourself first, please.
course, I'm Linda Darlington. I'm Linda Darlington.
And you have who with you?
I'm Hank Darlington.
And Hank Darlington. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the only written information that we don't have yet, and no one has, is the, urgent care report, which, Mrs. Penning's read. I can say that I did not completely understand that entire reading. That was a people that was read very quickly, and probably being unfamiliar with some of the terminology. I haven't had a chance to read that report, so I can't respond to that at all. So that part, when you said as far as has a written statement been submitted. I wanted to share that piece.
Well, let me ask you first, though.
Sure.
It happened in Mowing Way. I think they used to call it Davis Mowing back in the day. What number of house do you live in?
82
82.
or 80. Somewhere. In 82. It's, okay.
All right,
There,
you live there full time?
yes,
You do? Okay.
yes,
All right, I just want to establish that. All right, I'm sorry. Go
we
ahead.
do. The neighborhood is Davis Mowing, the street is Mowing Way. Because there is another street called Darrell Loop, which is within that same area.
There's a lot of confusion in that area.
Yes, not for the Chimney Hill, our own homeowners association, you
That's
know,
the old haystack. That's the old
Yes.
haystack.
yes, the old case.
Mhm.
You have never,
No, I would like to hear the events of that day.
okay, I'm going to pass that off to me because I wasn't present for the votes of that. So,
Yeah, I was after work walking, and I had him on his training collar, an electronic collar. Didn't make noise, buzz. We've been out to the woods and we're coming back to the house. We were almost back home. Self-evident that I thought when you come up the hill. So I was on the right hand side going down, she was on the right hand side coming up, kind of like we were traffic. she asked if Bob was a Weimaraner, I'm like, yes. She changed the pitch of her voice and spoke to the dog. She said, yeah, I think she said, she called it a pretty boy. You're such a pretty dog, or pretty boy, or something like that. That was when we were about even in the street, I think. So I turned to my left, Bob came over to them from the left. And we got next to her daughter, he put his paw on and put his head under her hand. She started screaming at him and pulled away. And then he started looking at them. Two steps and got him by the collar, had him sit down, sat next to me. Wow. That looked at her daughter, there was no marks on the tights the girl was wearing, but when she pulled the leg up, you could see that it definitely scratched her. Definitely made a mark. You have your brother and the dog gay. She was like, yes. Gave my name and then address to them at that time. They asked for the vet records. I talked with Bob to the house. 5 houses from where we live. And made copies of that stuff for her. Turned around and started walking back towards the place they were staying. And by then they were coming up towards our house. In the film. Willem and I exchanged cell phone numbers at that time. It was after when we got home that he sent a picture of the daughter to me.
The previous offense. Of the dog, I didn't either a friend or relative. No, one of your grandkids or something like that.
How long have you owned the dog for?
2 years.
Good rescue organization for blind members.
How long has the dog been on the training collar for?
They need to, very expensive.
Like a taser.
So how close were you to the daughter? How close was Bob to the daughter before the attack?
We were in the street. About even across the street, so a couple yards, 2-3 yards away.
Did you attempt to use the collar on Bob?
I did not, I just stepped. They don't sit there.
So you must belong to an association. Are there really restrictions on dogs up there?
I don't have it memorized, but I think there's some statement in the homeowner's bylaws that there's like a limit to how many animals you have. I think that there's any restriction on it specifically to canines. But we can't send a small farm, or a Vermont. But other than that, no.
But you register your dog too, it's not appropriate.
Yes. Yes, he is licensed, he's vaccinated. We started we actually fostered him, But I have a lot of experience with different organizations for dogs. I have trained and worked with therapy dogs through Southern Vermont Therapy Dogs. I also work with Guiding Eyes, which is an organization that raises dogs to use for vision care. So anyway, and I'm familiar with the Greater Good, and they contacted us. Because they, at the time, we had, in December of 2022, we had that fall, September, actually lost our old lab had passed away. So we didn't have a dog in the house. We were contacted by the Greater Good to see if we could foster a dog that they needed to place. That was Bob, the dog we now have. Within the idea was that we would foster him for a few months because the owner had temporarily surrendered him because she was going to be moving from her apartment in Manhattan off of Central Park to Vermont. So her intention was to buy property and relocate and have him here. That didn't happen. She permanently surrendered him. He didn't fit with her lifestyle in an apartment. So she surrendered him, thinking that was the best thing for him as well. And at that time, we received all of his vet records prior to him coming to us, so we knew that his vaccinations were current when we got him. I interviewed Greater Good, asking about behaviors, history, medical concerns, you know, like what a dog is a package, and I wanted to know what we were getting, to be sure that that's what we wanted. Because we are active in the community and we do go out in the community, and having worked with other dogs, such as therapy dogs and guide dogs, it's important to socialize dogs so that they do behave well. So Greater Good expressed that there was no history, no reported history from the owner. She was very warm. He wasn't like a stray that had been picked up. The previous owner had surrendered him with puppy pictures, and one of the behaviors though that he did come with, and it's something that when I have raised, or we and in our household, I have raised dogs before they had partners, is that he paws for things. He puts his paws up whenever he wants, he's trying to get your attention, and he puts his paws up, he jumps. And of course, that's an undesirable behavior, especially in a large dog that, you know, that we have tall and stand up as some people. So that is, you know, his pawing and use of his legs is something that we are continuously trying to. But that's the only behavior that we can have that we would love to break.
Are you aware of any dog that doesn't fall?
I had a black lab that was Zoe for 14 years, but she did not paw.
Really?
And,
We wondered about black lab.
yeah. If,
I'm not saying that.
unfortunately, if you raise them up, you can, you know, but we didn't get him as a puppy. And he was, I think, encouraged that he would shake hands. When I raise dogs or work with, especially the guide dogs or therapy dogs, that's a very undesirable attribute. So, we don't teach those kinds of tricks. But you.
I must be running into the wrong dog. Maybe, because they always jump up on. Me.
Yeah.
And go on, you know, and they usually go into my mind. Anyway, other than that, you haven't had any other complaints with anyone else being that assaulted by the dog? All right, anything else? Maybe dog running loose, any of this? Anything at all with the dog? The prior behaviors that would probably bring into question that maybe the dog is not being properly supervised. I don't mean that, I'm not pointing fingers, but I am pointing fingers, okay? I just want to make sure that especially in a place like Mormon Way where our Davis Small, we do have an abundance of second homeowners and probably if renters.
More renters than second.
Okay, all right.
Short-term renters, not renters of, community members, but
Okay.
short-term, temporary, we don't know who's in anyone's driveway at any given time. There's one prior incident where I was issued a citation for having brought off leash. Because the second homeowner saw him on their camera from Connecticut and contacted the police department. At that time, mowing way, as you come in from Haystack Road is the general.
Earth Link.
Okay, as you come into mowing way from Haystack Road, it ends up as a cul-de-sac. There's only one way in, one way out. Okay, so from where we live, usually like my morning, like the quick morning walk is actually out of our driveway to the left, which is towards the cul-de-sac. The time of the citation, where we were seen on camera at 6:30 in the morning, there were no other people at any of the houses that we passed. There were no renters, there were no permanent residents. No one was there. We know there's no one there because we also walk in the evening, so no one has garages. Cars and lights when they're, and they're gonna be, so yes, I did see the citation, with Bob, but it wasn't, just with that,
But that was from somebody that saw this picture and he wasn't even here.
correct.
How far away was that dog from, how far away was Bob from you when the camera caught him?
I don't know, I was never allowed to see the video that I was told existed. I asked and it wasn't given to me. A citation was hand delivered to me sometime within the week after that video was taken. And Officer Turpin came to my house at 10 o'clock at night and woke me up to give me that citation. I'm sorry?
When did this occur?
I have to say, I honestly don't have that data, I don't remember, but more than a year ago. Definitely within the past 2 years, because that's about the time we had one, but it's been a while. That particular house where the, they are the owners of that home, and they do occasionally rent it out, it wasn't children renters, but they didn't report it was the homeowner from their camera. They're having, I suspect, they watch us for a lot of things, because there's a really good lighting in our neighborhood with them. So they tend not to be tolerant enough.
So things are still the same up in Davis Small, aren't they? Huh?
Seems to be.
Yeah. Okay, no, I feel always like that.
Unfortunately, we live there all the time, and I prefer to have a peaceful existence with my neighbors.
So the dog was arrested, but the dog now is permanently yours.
Yes.
Okay, it's like you can't bring him back.
No, I mean,
I'm not asking you to do that, I'm just saying, you
no,
don't have that option.
our adoption agreement with the greater good does state that at any time we need to surrender him, that our agreement is that we would contact the organization first to give them the first option to take him back over. Because they're dedicated to that.
All right.
You have any testimony to provide about the exhibit you gave us?
I do. That is Bob's front paw. His right paw. According to because the only evidence I see there, but I haven't had an opportunity, there are more pictures, of the young child's leg, but of the 3 pictures that we were able to see prior to today, when I looked at those photos, what I see are four distinct marks, which were bruising, and there's a directional kind of scrape to the skin. when I looked at that and I compared it to Bob's paws, it appears to me that there could be question as to whether or not that's a paw mark or a bite. I actually took those photos to my vet, and I was told that it's inconclusive as to whether it's a bite or a straight from the paw. He's a large dog. When he paws, he leans into it. So that's why, and his picture is here because he's not, because we have complied with, we were asked, I think on March 19th, I came home from work. And there were 2 officers in my driveway. One of them is Officer O'Neill. I don't know who the other officer was. But Officer O'Neill, I literally pulled in behind him and he said, "Where's Hank and where's Bob?" And I just got home from work. I don't know. I haven't been in my house. I'm here in the driveway. They asked, that's when the police officer asked for copies of the vet record and of the rabies vaccine, which is what we gave to the pennies, or what they gave to the pennies the day before. So we provided the vet records to Officer O'Neill that night, and I did. The quarantine, that he also said, "You need to quarantine Bob." And I asked him what that meant. And he said, "You need to stay in your home." I asked if that meant he actually had to stay in the house, or could I take him out into our yard? He said, as long as he is leashed and doesn't leave your property, he can be quarantined in your home for a period of 10 days. That 10-day period will end in the evening of Saturday, the 29th. But he has quarantined without any incident. He's had no contact with any other animals other than our 2 house cats. We do have 2 house cats. They are also vaccinated. Their most recent vaccine was whenever they had it at the fire. Remember that date, but there was a vaccine clinic that happened. So cats, they're vaccinated. But they're your cats, so. And then excuse me, the following morning, I believe the 20th, Officer O'Neill had told me that Chief Morano had already been to our house during the day, wanted to speak with us, see the dog. We weren't home. That's why Officer O'Neill is back during his shift. The following morning, I appeared at the police station at around 7 o'clock. Chief Morano was not in the police station that day, or well, that morning. I spoke with the dispatcher. She took my name and number. I said, "I'm here to Officer or Chief Morano left his business card on our door." I spoke with Officer O'Neill last night, but I'm here to follow up with Chief Morano because Officer O'Neill just said, "I'm just here to tell you to quarantine and collect these papers." He had no other comments, interactions, didn't ask me any other questions. He just, told us to quarantine, asked if we'd be able to quarantine, given those parameters, and I said yes. So the following morning, I went to the police station before I went to work. Chief Morano was not in. I left my name and number with the dispatcher. I don't know what her name is. Too long right here. You'll know. When I gave her my name, I didn't even tell her what it was for. I just said, "He left his card at my house. I came to speak with him because, obviously I had to see it." When I gave my name, she said, "Do you know Hank Darlington?" I said, "Yes, he's my husband." She said, "Okay, I was asked to find his number yesterday." Said, "Well, there you go." So I left, and I think that was Friday or Thursday. Monday, Chief Morano called me. That was my next interaction with him. We picked a time to speak, which ended up being this past Tuesday morning. So I went into the police station and met with him on Tuesday morning. No, it doesn't matter. Officer O'Neill was at my house again after that to deliver the notice of this hearing 48 hours ago.
Questions, anyone?
Yeah, I got one. Please speak up. So, except for this incident with this little girl, do you and your dog have physical contact or wanting around contact with one another? Other human interaction? In general, I mean, my dog never sees anybody, first man, when they knock on my door. So I'm just wondering, because
On a,
the neighborhood you're in, are there more interaction?
on a day-to-day basis, generally not. On the weekends, but we will work on the weekends during the ski season when there are most people in our neighborhood. We might pass someone else walking. There are a lot of dogs that show up in visual challenges. So we may see people, but because of our hours, and in addition to that, we get up earlier and before the skiers go, because so there's very little contact in our neighborhood. Yeah, we do socialize him more in the summertime, when there's one, we have more time off. We take him to the lake, we have a small boat. We interact at the boat ramp with other boaters, other dogs. We, Snow has, or there's like a festival where it's dog friendly, dogs are permitted. We go to those. Generally walking in and out of our house and not so much.
Thank you. Since Tom's left us, I think we should pay his share. That's up to them.
What's that bond?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's that thing Bob was barking at them until their little goats didn't like started barking and go after them. He went over to them after that and was speaking with them. I assumed that she was calling him over, allowing him permission to come, so I let him go over to them. And everything was quiet at that point until he scratched the little girl and she screamed and then he responded.
Any more questions, folks? Let me ask you guys. Assume you're all seats, you know. And I'm gonna invite anyone, I'm gonna invite anyone else to submit relevant evidence. Testimony. Jessica, are you going to testify?
I can.
You didn't swear yourself in, did you?
I did.
Yes,
Oh, you
Okay.
did?
yes. Oh, chief.
All right.
I had the questions. if you have them.
Right. You're still here. Going slow for the computer, so. we
Yeah.
get that.
Be
Yeah,
quiet.
by the way, folks, thank you very much. All right. If you have a report, you have time.
Yes, every dog we invite.
So for the record, just introduce yourself.
Robert, Town Health Officer, from here today.
Thank you, Jessica.
Every dog bite is supposed to be reported to me, either by the owner, the victim, the police department, the hospital, vet, whatever.
Yeah.
We have a dog bite report that you have a copy of. I fill this out, I get both sides of the story, I can make sure that the dog's quarantined for 10 days. Regardless of if it's a bite or scratch, or if it's saliva, it's a bite, it's the risk. Then I give this report to the town clerk, and that essentially makes a tally, right? So we know if this is a repeat bite possible. Make sure that the dog's licensed in the town, make sure that the dog's vaccinated, and that's what I did. Yeah, I'm fine.
So who do you take the report from? The complainant?
Both, I
From
get
both.
phone numbers from both, I try to, sometimes I can't, but I try to speak to both, I would then speak to both in this case. Get their vaccination records, get their, dog license number, and then I give that to Therese downstairs.
All right, so this has been, have you seen a copy of this report? Everyone, have a copy?
Not to me,
Okay.
but
It's a standard report, okay, and, Ms. Roberts is doing exactly as she's required by the state. Okay, folks, just make sure you know that that's here, all right, and that's what we all need. We're in front of the word. This, at this point here, let's call up, Chief Morano. Chief, I know you have sworn yourself in, or you have been sworn in. I would like you to add whatever testimony you possibly have or could to the situation.
Good morning, I'm Chief Matt Malone with the Wilmington Police Department, and as you already heard, if you don't know, Wilmington PD also acts as the animal control for the town of Wilmington. This incident, I think, has been covered pretty well by both the complainant and the dog owners here. I would mention, excuse me, that in 2023, Wilmington Police Department took 2 complaints. Dog owning at large complaints involving this same canine. The result of one of those complaints was 2 tickets were issued to Linda Darlington, one for a violation of animal control running at large, and one for defecating. As a result of those 2 complaints in that area, we have no prior involvements with this dog or any other dog owned by the dog owners in this matter, other than those 2. This, as described and as I found, was a unprovoked dog attack that are concerning. There is not outside factors or triggers that alert dogs or can contribute to a dog being triggered to attack. I've looked at those photos, and some of those series of photos, you can see the bruising starting to show in those. I'm not sure how well it translates in the printout, but to me, it was consistent with a dog bite and the upper and lower jaws and the pressure applied by a jaw bite, resulting in the injury to the tissue there that's discolored. Met with and discussed this with Linda Darlington. There were concerns because there was a couple matters that I think have now been put to rest, but one of them was that whether or not the dog was in fact leashed at the time of the incident. Sounds like that we have confirmed now that the dog was not leashed, because that was something that was being argued. Sounds like we have confirmed that it's not leashed. In my time at Wilmington PD, generally we see these type of dog bites and attacks require some other type of action from the select board. And in my opinion, I would recommend that there would be an order that this dog be confined within the residence or leashed and on their property only within the town. Because our goal is to prevent any additional bite. Concerning this matter, if this child had been alone walking on the road, this could have ended really bad. You met up?
I don't think I have. I think some of my staff has, but no.
Did your staff, other officers report Bob being aggressive to them?
I have no other reports of Bob being aggressive.
When was that citation, the original one?
2023. There were 2 violations of dog.
Thank you. Hey, folks, we're gonna try to wrap this thing up, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for pennies and allow you any final comments you may have in this matter. Okay, you've heard the testimony on both sides. Is there anything else you would like to add to this hearing?
Sure, thank you. So I think as it's been discussed, there was photos that we shared and then there was additional photos. So again, as her wound, and it was a bite, it was not a scratch, completely unprovoked. The dog darted behind myself and bit my daughter about underneath the knee. And you'll see once the bruising and everything came apparent, you can see the multiple marks that happen. It was not a scratch. It's not a paw bite, a paw scratch, and any sort of, there's just no way. It was a bite. I would add that my daughter also is familiar with animals. She likes animals. I, again, had indicated this to Mr. Darlington when we had a conversation that she wanted to be a vet. And my biggest concern was that this would forevermore like traumatize her against dog. It was an 81-pound animal that aggressively attacked her unprovoked. I think as Chief Morano mentioned, it could have been way, way worse. That dog could have nipped her in the face, could have mauled her. It was off leash, it was uncontrolled. And in that moment, as I stated before, I whirled around because he came and darted behind me and bit her. I can't tell you why. I don't know the name or the nature of an animal and why they do the things that they do. When I whirled around, that dog was aggressively barking and growling at us while Mr. Darlington tried to get that dog under control and grab his collar. It was scary. It was terrifying because in those moments and in those very quick moments and intense moments, I couldn't even look at my daughter to know if she was bleeding profusely or what was happening to her because I was focused on that dog and trying to prevent further injury and harm to my daughter and myself. My first and foremost job as a parent is to ensure the safety of my child. My child's safety was jeopardized by Bob on that day, and thereby by the Darlingtons by not having the dog under control. I just want that dog to be in control and so that we can prevent further issues or injuries to other children or even adults. Again, the dog had a dart behind myself. We did seek medical treatment, and I am very, very, very thankful that it was not worse than it was and that she did not need, and it wasn't recommended for any further rabies vaccination series to be instituted or anything of that nature. So I'm very thankful for that. But again, it could have been way worse. And I'm very cognizant of that fact. So I just want to make sure an incident like this doesn't happen again. My goal is to prevent this from happening. While she's physically fine and she's recovering because the bruising takes a minute to go away, she's also a young child who has really great skin integrity and doesn't tear and rip as much as, an 89-year-old might. So I think there's something to be said about that and her ability to heal. But I think the mental trauma of having a dog attack and have an 81-pound dog that outweighs you pound for pound is scary. And that's not something that's also easily overcome. So the physical harm is healing. The mental harm will probably take a little longer. So I would add that to this testimony. And I will also add that while in our stay on Mowing Way, we did witness previous to this incident, that dog and Mr. Darlington didn't obviously know who he was previously. He's a very distinctive man, walking with that dog off leash. It was noted multiple times with both myself, my husband, and again, the friends that we were staying with, that dog was not leashed in the times we saw him previous to this incident either. So I think anything that you want to add, honey?
No, echo everything my wife has said to that matter.
And it was not a dog scratch. My daughter is well versed. She takes care of our neighbor dog on a routine basis. So she's used to dogs pawing, and they have a very small puppy, but she's used to having and being around dogs. Like I said, she helps take care of our neighbor's dog, and she's used to that, and she doesn't scream. And so this is not a child not used to being interacted with animals either. So I would add that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're gonna obviously extend the same courtesy to you. Anything else you would like to add? And something else,
Yes, I would.
well, please.
Closer to the computer. Um, I'm going to refrain from responding to specific comments.
Yeah, you bet that would be fine.
But what I do, I just wrote out my words so that I make sure I made my points. It's not actually written testimony, is what I want to say. That we take the health and safety and comfort of everyone in our community very seriously. I have dedicated many years of volunteer service to the health and benefits of our community. I'm the EMT with Deerfield Valley Rescue. And as you know, I also work with our dog trainer and freezer for the benefit that dogs do provide to the community as well. I am sorry that this young person was hurt by a pet. Her well-being is important, and I regret that this happened. Moving forward, we will take additional precautions to prevent interactions between our pet and strangers. We will politely deny requests to approach or otherwise interact with him. And we're going to continue his our pet's training to reinforce safe behaviors. My priority and his priority is ensuring the safety and comfort of everyone in our community.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so upon a motion here for the majority, we'll either adjourn or recess. I feel we should recess, we have all of the. And we'll, at this point, we're gonna close out the hearing with a motion. We are then going to deliberations, that's just the board. Just the board. And within 30 days, you will have a written response. And I do believe that can be appealable. But either way, it's going to, that's the decision. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to accept the motion. That we adjourn. Okay, the motion to adjourn, all those in favor, and I'm sorry, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, at this point here, folks, so we are going into deliberative session, just like we do with the DCA. And folks, I'm going to have to
Yeah,
ask.
they need to make their motion to go in before it's not recording now.
You'll have to make a-
That was to close the hearing. They need a motion to go into deliberations.
So,
You need to move, you need to make a motion to go into deliberations, I think.
okay, we're going to do that. for everyone.
Yeah, just make.
Your motion to go
That's
in.
where you go.
Yeah.
And then we'll have it on record before we take
Okay,
it.
then I will make the motion that we went to deliberative session. We have a second.
Second.
Or motion second, to go into deliberative session, all those in favor say aye. Aye. We are in deliberative session. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can keep recording on that one, and on this one.
You got it?